You can almost see the self-appointed watchdogs of the press growling and gnarling, and you can see them baring their teeth as they talk about and write about how they're going to cover President Trump. Now, let me say right at the top, I'm all for aggressive coverage of every president, of every administration. That's part of the press's job, but I don't seem to recall a lot of these pieces being written and a lot of these comments being made at the end of 2008 when Barack Obama was about to take office about how the press really needed to be tough on that new president. Of course, the counter to that is often, well, Trump is different because, he attacks the press and he has a loose relationship with the truth and we've got to hold him accountable, which raises some questions about fairness and balance. So two pieces that caught my eye. One of them is by Jim Rutenberg, New York Times media columnist, who praised CNN's Jake Tapper for an aggressive interview with Mike Pence. Fine, I'm all for aggressive interviews. And then Rutenberg says, television news is going to have to do its part should Mr. Trump and his administration try to make policy based on false assertions, the same way he used them on the campaign trail. Parentheses, and yes, television will have to be just as vigilant should Mr. Trump's opponents use falsehoods to fight him too. I think, being aggressive against false information, distorted information, incomplete information is fine, but it shouldn't only go against one side and against one president. And look, when Donald Trump claimed that millions of people had voted illegally in the election, the press rightly was all over him because he didn't have any evidence for that. A lot of other things you can see the press sort of parsing his words, trying to be overly contentious. An also interesting piece by the former editor of Politico, Susan Glasser, summing up her feelings about the media, and I like it when she began by talking about she didn't miss the old days because it was an old boys club, smug, insular, narrow-minded, invariably convinced of their own rightness. Kind of like a lot of people view the press today. But here's the nub of what Glasser writes. She says that what she's afraid of is that the media scandal of 2016 isn't so much, as some people claim, that reporters failed to tell the American public about Trump or anything else. It's what they did report on, and the facts didn't seem to matter. And this gets into, I talked about this throughout the campaign. The press would jump all over Trump over, something that he said that he might have said was sarcastic. He didn't mean literally, that Hillary Clinton was a co-founder of ISIS, or that literally he was inviting the Russian hackers to find her deleted emails. Press would go crazy. The people who supported Donald Trump didn't seem to care, even when the facts were not on Trump's side, and the media were right to point it out. Remember all of those things where he would say something, whether it was about John McCain or Mexican immigrants, Muslims, you name it. You'd be all these, analyses. Well, this is going to sink his campaign, and that wouldn't happen. And I think that's because the public heard Trump in a different way that we as journalists do. We are very literal. We get the transcript out. We look at each verb and adjective, and we say this isn't true, this is partly true, this is mostly true, this is completely and totally false. A lot of Trump supporters heard a guy who was politically incorrect, who didn't parse every word like a polished politician, who was standing up for them. They gave him a lot of leeway when it came to if he had made a mistake or a misstep or put something wrong. Now, clearly, when he said something that was completely and totally inaccurate, it was our job and is our job to call him out. But my takeaway from all of this is that, yes, as with any president, the media need to be aggressive in taking on the next president of the United States. But it's also important that we not hold him to some wildly different standard than we have held past presidents. Otherwise, a lot of people out there are going to conclude that this is not just journalistic scrutiny on our part, but plain old bias.